Now that you are in entertainment law, do you sit back and say, man, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have known it had I, at the time when I was in the band?
I think that the answer is basically no. I sort of shook out the what ifs by spending 8 years doing this full time, but I was not informed, and that's one of the things that I try not to accept in my artist clients. They need to know how the business works, and I tell them, look, if you owned a widget factory, you'd know everything about it. You would know where your raw materials come from, how much your labor costs, what it takes to process it, what it takes to get in the market, promote it, advertise it, what it takes to sell it, what your profit margin is per piece, that you know who to discount, you know all that stuff. You don't know, musicians often, they understand if they play a show somewhere, they're probably going to get paid. But when it comes to music publishing and record royalties, they're often way under-equipped, and so I wish I would have known more, and I will tell you this, there are a lot better resources available now for musicians than there were when I was going through it.
Yeah, because the question I'm going to ask is this, when it comes to that. My nephew, he has a little group he put together that plays once in a while around the Chicago area, songwriter, that sort of thing. There are probably thousands of his type of band just in Chicago, your area alone, looking to get that big break. What would be the one piece of advice that after your knowledge of being a part of a band, after your knowledge of the law now, the one piece of advice you would give like a 20-year-old kid and his friends in a band if they're thinking about really turning this into something larger?
Well, from the legal perspective, the advice would be don't sign anything without a lawyer. Because you sign something, you may end up, like lots of bands in my era did, paying royalties to a manager for 25 years who hadn't lifted a finger for you for 24 of those years. So, you just don't sign anything. From a business perspective, I'm not sure that I think the tools have changed, but the job hasn't. And what I mean is, in all of my bands, we spent time rehearsing, of course, and time performing and time recording, but we tried to build our fan base, and in those days you had the analog tools where you'd put out postcards and get people to sign up, and then you would send them postcards telling them where you're going to play, and you would keep this mailing list, and you would keep track of where you played and who was there and who ran the club, and you did your homework, and it's so much easier now. You have to build an audience. That's how you do it. There's a bunch of different ways to do it, but we're not in the kind of world where someone will get signed and just put out a recording and have a hit without having an audience in place already. Now, you don't have to have a national audience, but you have to have a following that shows a producer, a manager, a record company, a publisher, and booking agent that you've got an audience. People are into what you do. And then they figure, well, we'll plug you into our infrastructure. We can grow your fan base. But you just have to do that work. You have to get good. It's harder to get good as a tight unit today because, I'll sit down with these young bands and I'll say, how much do you play? And they say, all the time, 6 times a month. And I'm thinking, wow, we did that in 5 days. It's harder to find the venues to put in the time to get really good as players.